How would you and your family survive if you were without power for multiple days? How would you cook food and what would you eat? Well, hey, this is great news. Check this out. Staff at Hidalgo County, Texas have created the Power Out Cooking Recipe Book that walks people through how you can safely cook tasty meals at home when you're in an extended power outage. Really interesting episode here of the GeoTrek podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Hurricane Hal, host of the GeoTrek podcast, where we explore the world to bring you stories about extreme weather and natural disasters not covered by the mainstream media. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow our content on your favorite podcast platform. And of course, don't miss out on our growing YouTube page where you can watch a video episode of all of these podcast interviews. Today on the podcast, we have Judge Richard Cortez, the county judge from Hidalgo County, Texas. He's been taking the leadership there to have this initiative to create resources to help people recover after disasters. We also have Hilda Salinas, the assistant chief of staff, and also Lizbeth Gonzalez in the county judge's office there in Hidalgo County, Texas. Well, without further introduction, let's jump into this GeoTrek podcast episode where we'll hear all about the Power Out Cooking Recipe Cookbook. Well, what an exciting episode of the GeoTrek podcast. We're here today with Judge Richard Cortez, Hilda Salinas, and Lizbeth Gonzalez, all from Hidalgo County, Texas, and extreme South Texas. Really appreciate you all taking time to come on the GeoTrek podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Today, we're going to be talking about an exciting project launched by Hidalgo County. It's the Power Out Cooking Cookbook, a resource designed to guide residents on how to cook food during extended power outages. So let's start by finding out, how did this idea get started and what are the main topics that it teaches residents?
Well, the idea came out, Judge had the foresight, the thought, after we went through Hurricane Hannah, which was a Category 1 storm that went through Hidalgo County in 2020. And then 7 months later, our region got hit all of Texas, right, got hit by Winter Storm Uri, which was a very unprecedented storm for our area that is very used to warm weather, like year round. So through all the experience that we went through with both those things, Judge realized that it was very, very important to be better able to prepare our residents and especially our essential employees to make sure that they were able to care for themselves and their families so that they could report to work and we could take care of the rest of the community. So one of the biggest things I think that we learned, especially from Winter Storm Uri, was that power restoration is not always as quick as people would like it to be. And because of that, we recognize the need to strengthen the community's preparedness beyond regular traditional hurricane readiness, which is typically 3 days, right? Be prepared for 3 days. So we figured we better come up with something real quick, or actually he told us to make sure we came up with something real quick to have the community remain safe, fed, and very resilient during extended power outages. So that's what we did. We cover emergency food preparation. We cover safety tips for cooking with alternative fuels. We even cover the dangers of carbon monoxide poisoning, because that is definitely a little off spin from that. And we even include some mental wellness tips, because we know severe weather can be pretty stressful.
Well, Hilda and Judge Cortez, I love the concept of this project. You know, we see when we deal with communities on hurricane preparedness, a lot of people are focused on the day of the storm. And in general, unless your house floods or you have a tree on your roof, we often tell people what can be harder is the days and weeks after the storm, not the actual storm itself. And it sounds like you're doing some things to prepare your residents and employees to say, well, here's how you can take care of yourself if you do have an extended power outage. I had a question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Judge.
Well, we are the ninth most populous county in the state of Texas, and we're very close to the Gulf of Mexico. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people in poverty. We have people that are elderly. We have people that are disabled. Transportation is an issue. So there's a lot of barriers that we face every day in really caring for those vulnerable population. So preparedness is essential and a necessity for us to be able to serve our community well.
Judge, I appreciate that. And like you're saying, with people having maybe limited resources or disabilities, these different issues, preparedness is so important. They may not be able to evacuate even if an extreme weather event was coming to Hidalgo County, right? Yeah. No, that's
absolutely correct. And it's so important for us to continue to do this. And one of the other barriers that we have here, or other sensitive things, is we have a lot of food insecurity among our youth and our elderly. So that even makes it even more important for us to be totally prepared. And I'm just real proud of Hilda, our staff and the rest of the departments that really have taken this to heart and really want to excel in that effort to do that. And we hope that others will take a look at what we're doing, help us even make it better and duplicate it.
Well, Judge Cortez, I'm glad you brought that up and you talked about the different partners there in the county that put this together. I wanted to ask you, I saw on the cover of the cookbook, it said that this was produced by Hidalgo County Judge, that's you, Judge Cortez, and also Hidalgo County Emergency Management, Hidalgo County Fire Marshal. It seemed like there were a lot of entities that came together. How did these different entities and organizations really work together to produce this?
Sure. Thank you for that question. Well, as county judge, I'm responsible as the top emergency manager in the county. And, I don't have the background or the experience or the knowledge that are people that are professional in that area. So really, it was our ability to put the expertise of those individuals, those departments together along with our office, really to come up with the best product possible. And there were a tremendous resource for us to be able to put something together as we did, because they bring a lot of experience, to the table.
Sure. No, that makes sense. And it obviously is going to make it stronger when you have these entities working together. I wanted to ask, in addition to the cookbook, are there ways that you were able to use the cookbook with like in-person workshops, social media, videos? I mean, how have you used the cookbook in conjunction with like other methods of reaching people and training them how to cook when the power's out?
Well, the first thing that we wanted to do was really serve our own employees. Our county, we have around 4,000 employees. Some of them are essential workers. Some of them need to be out there during the storm and during this period of time. And they're going to be leaving their families alone, leaving their families at home, and they're going to be out there working. So we thought we would start there. And that was very, very successful. But then as people started to find out about these things, and schools wanted it, other organizations wanted it. Hilda, why don't you give them more detail about the different episodes and workshops that we had?
Okay, so we have this particular portion, Hal, has been very much live in-person workshops. We have a lot of other components that tie to hurricane preparedness that we have gone to social media and specific videos. But with this one, I know that Judge felt very strongly there at the beginning that this was the way to get people focused, to have them be able to ask questions. And they say like a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, this isn't a picture. This is like a live demo. They're able to see the food being cooked. The explanations are live. When you talk about like a propane stove, it's there. It's on the table. It's being used. And you see how it's lit. And then the plus side is you get to taste what we're actually cooking at the end.
I love that. So you're actually doing it, and they can ask a question or actually touch it, taste it. It probably becomes very real for them, right? Very
much so.
Yeah, I love that. And then you're able to leave them with the cookbook that they don't have to remember everything you taught them in the workshop. It seems like those in-person trainings are working in conjunction with the book itself very well to thoroughly train them.
Yes. We have very good, we do an evaluation at the end of everyone, and the results are always, we're happy. We're happy with the results because we see a change here and there.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Hilda. Lizbeth Gonzalez sent a graphic showing how confident the people were before training and after training. And it's tremendous to see. I mean, afterwards, almost everybody was very confident or somewhat confident of how to cook using these methods, whereas beforehand, it was really skewed more towards somewhat confident or more in the middle. So it's
Yes.
really making a difference.
Yes. We think it is. We feel that it is.
I wanted to ask a question. I mean, this seems like this could be replicated, right? How easy would it be to scale or replicate this program for other organizations, other counties, other cities? And have you had other entities reaching out to you to say, hey, we need this in our county or we need this in our city?
Judge?
Hilda, Hilda, I won't let you give the details, but I want to tell you what's essential, important, and necessary. The first step is you have to be committed to doing it. If you're committed to doing it, then the rest is really not a big deal. But give them the details, Hilda.
So basically, I'm going to tell you flat out, we would not be able to do any of this if it wasn't for the fact that Judge Cortez allows us to do it, because it is not a difficult program to replicate at all, right? I can tell you, starting with the recipes, it took us a couple of months to get them where we wanted them. My girls were very picky. They wanted to make sure that they were delicious and that they had very much the home cooked flavor. So it took a while to get that straight. We got it, judge approved. But all in all, it takes a dedicated staff. I can tell you, judge's staff loves what they do every time we go out to do one of these. They love the cooking. They love the camaraderie of coming together and educating the community, because ultimately that's what it's about, right? We've had a lot of organizations get all excited about it because we tell them we can come to you, and they're all like, wow, like this is great. I wish we could do this. I had one county that very particularly said, I wish we could do this in our county. But ultimately, they ended up asking to see if we could go do it for them, because either they didn't have the means or the effort or whatever it was to put it together. So we get invited to do a lot, but not as much to help them replicate it, which is what we would hope would happen.
Oh, I see. So you'll have entities say, come and do the demo for us and bring your cookbook for us, and maybe not as much say, hey, we want to actually launch this same program in our county or in our city.
That's where we're at right now. We're trying to get it out there to get them to understand that it's not hard, that, you know, emergency management, fire marshal.
Let me make this. I'm a very lucky person to have the staff that I have, Hal, because, you know, to me, when I talk to people about service, I said, if you want to be happy, find joy in serving others, and you'll always be happy. And that's the kind of staff that we have now. And I believe that explains why we're having the success here. And I hope it's contagious. I hope others will do that, because that's what we're in business for, is to serve people.
Yeah, I love that perspective there. No, that's. I think we all need to keep that at the forefront. Thank you, Judge Cortez, for sharing that.
But Hal, I'll tell you, honestly, it's got to start at the top. We couldn't do it without the leader that we have. He has the foresight and he has the commitment, the drive to have us continue to do this. And we are blessed to have him.
Well, and like Judge said, if you're going to do it, you have to really do it well and do it thoroughly, you know, and I hope other counties and cities can see your example and say, hey, this is something we can do here. But like you said, it takes the commitment to see it through. I want to ask a question. What are some necessary steps that people would need to take before a storm hits if they want to cook without the power out? I mean, what kind of supplies do people need, and how hard is it to get these supplies?
Judge?
Yeah, well, go ahead. You know, let's start with vehicles. You need to be prepared with your vehicle. You need to have fuel in your vehicles. You need to look into all of your documents that you want to make sure that you have. I didn't answer your question because I know you talked to me about the food, but there are so many other aspects that you have to prepare for during the storm. Not only the nutritional side of that, but that's the importance of having a resource for you to be able to go and use that as a reference book, because it really outlines everything that you need to have and all the things that you need to have in one document themselves. And it's really, to me, I tell people, whether I do it today, I do it tomorrow, or I do it a week from now, it's going to take me the same amount of time. So you know what? Let me do it right away. Like that, I will always have it to benefit me. And that's why this resource that we have here, I think, is so important, so valuable for our people, that if anybody wants to do it, then it's just as easy as picking up this booklet and looking at it. And all the questions that you just asked me are right there in that booklet.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm sure it walks people through. From looking at what you all sent me, it's getting into foods, it's getting into fuels, and like you said, Judge, you need to also have gas in the car, right? Because if you can't go anywhere, if you can't get out to get the supplies you need, then you're kind of stuck as well. So I'm going to encourage people to read this and to find this resource that they can walk through it. It sounds like it's very thorough, and from what I've seen, it would really walk anyone through how they can cook with the power out. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Well, one of the things that we found out during the pandemic is, a lot of people are in oxygen. And, that's so important for you to have, if you were on an electrical one that you need electricity for it, then you're not going to have that oxygen. So all of those things you need to think about it, before you're going to need them. And that's hopefully what we're trying to accomplish here, is bring attention to all the different possibilities so that people can be prepared as best as they can.
I wanted to ask you both, we mentioned early on that there are a substantial number of people where you live that have, issues with food security or strained resources. They may not have the financial means to evacuate or able to do that. Does this come up when you talk about this program? Have you encountered people say, well, why are people staying when there's a power outage? Why don't they evacuate? Why don't they leave? I mean, Hilda, you and I at the National Tropical Weather Conference, we were talking about in certain situations and for certain people, leaving home for an extended period of time just doesn't really work with their life situation. Have you had interactions with people saying, why are you training people how to live without the power? Why don't we encourage them to leave? Have you had those types of interactions?
Actually, I don't know if it's because we do so much, hurricane preparation in the area. I don't think our people question evacuation. I think if Judge were at some point to say we're going to evacuate, which would be very difficult to begin with, I don't think you'd have a lot of people questioning whether it's the right or wrong thing to do. Now, whether it's economically feasible for them to do it or not is a different thing. But no, we've never had actually anyone question it.
We have to be aware of our environment. And one of the things that we ask in part of our program is to ask all of the neighbors to be aware of who the neighbors are.
Yes.
And to make sure that if they have a neighbor that falls into this category, that they be part of the solution and not part of the problem, and not pay attention to them. We're working very closely with all of the other agencies that deal with the elderly, deal with the poor, deal with the disability, people with disabilities, to really identify the type of people that we have, because we can't help you if we don't know who you are and where you are. And this is part of what we're doing. We're not there yet, but we're getting very close to really knowing our population of people, where they are and where the situation is, so we can respond appropriately during these times of emergency.
How one of the things that the longer workshop had, the one that we used for the essential employees, was we actually had a discussion regarding strengthening your home a little bit at a time, right? Because we told them in the long run, if you put the math to it as to how much you spend on actually evacuating, and you were to use some of that money to strengthen some of the things in your home, we actually have a component that came from things that we've learned at the National Tropical Weather Conference, we actually have that discussion. So we teach them to look, at the soffits of their home. We teach them to understand that the garage door is the weakest point, which was a surprise to many people, I will tell you. So we do, talk about it, but like Judge says, we have to be very aware of who our population is.
I love that focus on strengthening the home. We had the people from Flash, the Federal Alliance for Safe Homes, and they were sharing there are even like do-it-yourself projects that you can use to install a brace on your garage door. Some of these things, they're surprisingly affordable, but like you said, there maybe some of that money that people spend to strengthen their home, maybe instead of evacuating at times, it could help them have a better outcome in a storm like that. I wanted to ask as well, Hilda, when we were at the National Tropical Weather Conference, you shared what a surprise it was with Winter Storm Uri, or some people call the Texas freeze of 2021. Generally, when we think of South Texas, we think of heat, drought, wildfire, hurricanes, floods. Usually extreme winter weather is not on the menu there, but that's what happened in 2021. Could you walk us through, what were some of the impacts you found in Hidalgo County, and how were people caught off guard from that event in February of 2021?
I think the first thing that caught us all off guard was the duration, because we'll get a below 32 now and then, maybe 12, 24 hours, and then before you know it, we're burning up again, right? It's hot. But this one was below 32 for a good number of days. It left many of our residents without electricity for several days. That was very, very unusual for us here in the region. We had, like Judge said, because of our, population, we had, dangerous situations with families without without adequate heating. We had, frozen pipes, main water breaks. We even had failures in the water infrastructure. We had boil water notices going out throughout many communities. We had people that, were experiencing food shortages in the home because, they didn't have any power. What were they going to cook? They ran out of food. Our farmers endured a lot of agriculture and livestock losses also throughout the region. There was just a huge demand for emergency shelters like warming centers and community assistance. It was unusual for us.
This is why what we're doing is so important, because there's a danger to this situation. I know that people without electricity will burn some charcoal or wood or something inside their home, or go into their cars and put on the heater in their car. All of this are very dangerous ways of heating your home or providing heat for yourself. So this is why it's so important for us to educate all of our people as to the safe way of doing things and the wrong way of doing things, because it's going to happen. One of the things that we saw during this period of time, because of the level of poverty that we have in some areas, is we had all these trailers, and they were not mobile homes; they were basically little trailers. They were all hooked up. There were about 40 of them hooked up to one electrical pole. One electrical pole. So what are they going to do in a very small area? So all of these things, that's the challenge that we have, and that's why it's so important for us to have this information readily available to everybody, for us to be able to respond. And I'm sure that we're not the only ones, in our nation that are similarly situated.
Well, Judge, I could see that being an issue that blindsides people, things like overcharging electricity, carbon monoxide poisoning, these things that, because like with that Winter Storm Uri, people are put in a very unusual situation that they don't have a lot of experience of being sub-freezing for many days in a row, right? So they may not have the education or experience to know how to ventilate on all these things. It sounds like you were doing everything you could to educate and to train people. This is how you can warm yourself safely, for example.
That is correct.
To some extent, so would you say the idea of cooking without power, it sounded like in the beginning you were saying it was a combination of what happened with Hurricane Hannah in 2020, Winter Storm Uri. just less than a year later. It sounded like your county was strained or challenged under these disasters that gave you the opportunity to say, hey, how can we better educate our residents? It sounds like it came a lot out of the 2020 and 2021 period.
Yes, and cooking without power is really, we're also teaching them, how to use alternative fuels safely in your home. So it has multiple benefits.
So I wanted to ask, as well, as we're talking about Hidalgo County and the different disasters you faced, what are some other initiatives that Hidalgo County has taken in recent years to help residents prepare for extreme weather and natural disasters? I mean, you've shared some of them on this, but are there a few recent initiatives, for example, that the county is undertaking, really beyond the cookbook and this program that you're doing?
So, yes, I mean, well, the Power Out Cooking series really evolved. We came across, in meeting all the community members that we met and, identifying additional needs and things like that, we were able to grow the program. So it has considerably grown. But more recently, we did a Who Let the Floods Out program at the South Texas All Hazards Conference, where we actually, he's back, where we actually talked to residents and emergency responders about what to do if we lose water services and sanitation services. So we have that new one. And then last year we kicked off, after another bad flood situation that we had that hit us right as school was letting out. And we had lots of children that had to stay in school and wait until their parents could get to them. The streets looked like rivers for a while. So we put together something called Through the Storm with Sunny. It's a puppet show to help children, young children, understand severe weather and how to handle their emotions through that. This summer, we're going to libraries for children again with the puppet show, with the same puppets, to talk about hurricane preparedness and what they need to do if their parents are busy getting ready for a storm.
I commend you all for being so creative. What I'm picking up with Hidalgo County Emergency Management, with the county judge, you'll find creative ways to reach your audience and keep it interesting and engaging, which, that's fabulous. And I know our listeners are really going to enjoy this episode. And there are things you're doing that I think other counties and cities and other entities are going to say, wait, why aren't we doing that here? So be expected for people to reach out after they hear this podcast. And I wanted to ask you, what are ways that people can find you all online or reach out to you if they have questions or they want help duplicating the things you're doing there in Hidalgo County?
They most definitely can call here, our office, our county judge's office, are at 956-318-2600. We are also on social media. We're on social platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, X. You can find us at Judge Cortez.
Hilda, so is the cookbook actually available on an online link, or would people have to call or email to request it? It is?
It is at hidalgocounty.us. There is a big old banner across the webpage that takes you directly. You just click on it. It'll take you. You can view the cookbook in a flip book, or you can actually download it. And the cookbook is bilingual.
Okay, that's fantastic. And so important there in South Texas. You have a lot of people more comfortable in Spanish than English. This was a fantastic podcast. We learned a lot from you all, really encouraged by the great work that you're doing. As we wrap up this episode of the GeoTrek podcast, Judge, I'll start with you. What is one last take-home message you'd like to share with our listeners? Maybe one last point that you'd really like them to walk away with.
Well, I just want to tell everyone that being prepared and preparedness starts immediately. Don't wait until the need is there. And I think that we're creatures of habit, creatures of comfort. We want to start early in educating all of our people, because emergencies happen at the split of a second. And the more prepared you are, the better you are. And all of us in government have a duty to do exactly that, to be able to administer to the needs of our people. And I encourage everyone to spend time and effort on this thing. It just will make them better.
Thank you, Judge, for sharing that perspective. Hilda, what's one last take-home message you'd like to share with our listeners?
I guess I'm going to piggyback on what Judge said, understanding that the time to prepare is before the storm, because ultimately it just takes one to devastate us.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, Judge Cortez, Hilda, Lizbeth, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm hoping you don't see that many disasters down there in South Texas, but if you do, your residents are going to be so much better prepared because of the great work you're doing. So keep up the great work, and we're excited to continue following what you're doing there in Hidalgo County as we go on into the future. Thank you for joining us on the podcast today. Thank you so much, Judge Cortez, Hilda Salinas, and Lizbeth Gonzalez for joining us on the GeoTrek podcast. This was a really inspirational episode for me. I really walked away with three main take-home points. The first one, Hilda said this again and again and again. It takes great leadership to get things done and to do something creative like creating the Power Out Cooking recipe book. She had mentioned Judge Cortez was really engaged and locked in on this project all the way through, and his leadership is really what made this possible. It just reminded me that you can have great ideas, but if you don't have leaders that are going to really stick with this and persist and support the project, it's not going to happen. So great work there by Judge Cortez and his staff there at Hidalgo County, Texas. Number two, what I loved about this episode, what they're doing there in Hidalgo County, Texas, with this Power Out Cooking recipe book, it's an achievable and affordable resource that anyone could do. We hear more and more in disaster resilience focus on multi-million and multi-billion dollar solutions. If we just harness more AI, if we just have more supercomputer models, if we just throw more money and more technology, we're going to solve all of our problems. What I love about this is actually a very cost-effective and affordable tool that is achievable and affordable for any city or any county to put together, but it's going to meet the needs of your residents if they're stuck without power for an extended period of time. So it's a very cost-effective tool, but it's achievable and it's affordable. We like to focus on those solutions here on the GeoTrek podcast. And lastly, this is something that I definitely heard on the podcast. It's often the storm that you don't expect that blindsides you and creates the biggest impact. When we think about South Texas, we think about heat, drought, wildfires, severe thunderstorms, and of course, hurricanes and floods. But Hilda was mentioning that one of the big impact events there that led to the Power Out Cooking recipe book was the big winter storm, the Texas freeze of February 2021. We don't often think of winter weather when we think of Texas, but that was a big event that blindsided the state. Always be aware of that event that can blindside you. Winter weather in the southern states or a massive heat wave in a place like Seattle or Minneapolis. Sometimes it's the weather events that we don't expect that can have the biggest impacts, but it seems like the work they're doing there in Hidalgo County is preparing the residents if there's another big winter storm or for extended power outages during hurricanes or severe thunderstorms. Thank you again, Judge Cortez, Hilda Salinas, and Lizbeth Gonzalez for joining us on the podcast. This is going to be a fan favorite. I'm going to be sharing it on all of my social media platforms because I think people all over the country and all over the world need to hear about this great work that you're doing. Thanks again to our staff at Blue Leopard Agency for supporting the podcast, President Senneth Baker, Senior Video Producer Jeremiah Long, and Brand Manager Ashley Bryan all do amazing amount of work behind the scenes to bring you the GeoTrek podcast on each and every episode. Thanks again to our fans, our loyal followers for helping to consistently make us one of the top podcasts on the topic of natural disasters. I'm your host, Hurricane Hal. Stay safe, stay weather aware, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the GeoTrek podcast.